Welcome to the Sirens of the Mother podcast, a place where we wax lyrical about all things mother, from the divine to the downright dirty. And it's my pleasure to have you here as we cut through the noise and distortions of our current narratives. So hi, it's been a while. And now I'm recording my second podcast in a long time, and Macy Doris is a dear friend and soulmate, really, I'd call her. I have such an affinity with the truth and wisdom that pours through this woman. And I really wanted her to be the last guest on this first season of Sirens of the Mother, because she is truly a siren. And when I first met Macy, I was just really struck by the potency and the innocence of who she was, who she is, and the clarity of her gnosis. And I've interviewed her before on my Instagram, and ever since that conversation, I have felt a desire to shift into eldership because I realise that these young maidens that are coming forward need elders, and suffice to say, I had a lot of clearing up to do to get to a level where I could call myself an elder big enough to hold such wisdom coming through this young vessel. And we're going to talk about that in the talk today, around the sense of leadership and things that we felt in the field that are a bit wonky, to be honest. They're off, they're off centre. And we've both come to this beautiful point where we've just gone through a really big initiation and a recalibration and a rite of passage into embracing more of this elemental force of the mother that comes through us both and is directly connected to source. It's like, it's so deep, it's so beautiful, it's so vast, it's so wide. And, you know, we've spent most of the day just connecting and talking and really landing what we want to say, because we feel that expansion in both of us, that it's ready. And Macy's work around the maiden is just so needed, and it can only come from a maiden. Do you know what I mean? It can only come from a maiden because she's living, breathing it as a living, breathing gnosis. And so, welcome, Macy Doris. I am eternally grateful that you are a being in my life. And yeah, you bring so much into my life. And yeah, it's a pleasure to have you as the closing act. It's like amazing. Yeah. Introduce yourself and yeah, say some things.
Thank you so much, Coco, for having me on your podcast to speak to these truths that I know both really resonate within each of us deeply. So my name's Macy Doris. I am a maiden, mystic, and word weaver. I really believe deeply in tending to our land as daughters of the earth, as medicine women. And I believe that there is such healing to be found in the collaboration between women and the earth, allies, tree spirits, really alchemizing the gifts that she gives us, and bringing through such power.
Yeah, and we both do it in very different ways. I think we were talking about that earlier, around mine's a very internal, like yeah, living it as my just everyday existence, 24 hours a day, it's on. And so is yours, but it's like you're running circles and things in a minute, whereas I'm using my personal, like, just intimate relationships to do a similar thing. And, you know, being directed to work with the spirits of the land, but in cities, which is very different when we think about land. And we spoke earlier around, you know, mother is everywhere. There's not a crack that she doesn't come through. And there are so many like cracks and analogies around. We spoke about the snowdrop analogy for me that looks like such a tender thing, but it goes through cracks, it goes through concrete, it comes through frozen ground, you know, as we're shifting into the seasons of spring, which is very maiden. And to think of that tenacity of that and to see that as an analogy for the maiden, that she is so potent and we've kind of missed a little bit of her potency and magic.
Yeah.
And what we, as the opposite end of that, have to kind of do and relate, how we relate to that. And unfortunately, in the collective at the minute, there seems to be this weird, wonky hierarchy thing, or in the wider collective around like striving to get the maiden, but it's this outside persona. It's not this potency of her internal wisdom, the depth of her, because it's a time when she comes into a fullish power. She steps into womanhood. So I'd love you to talk more about that, about how you came to that realization yourself and what you've birthed from there.
And this is one of my most favorite things to speak about. I think that the maiden is undoubtedly the missing chapter in many, not just girls, but many women's lives. Um, I think that she has been so forgotten and so dismissed within our society, our world today, that so many women are at a point of asking who even is the maiden. You know, when we address this maiden archetype, who are we speaking about? Who are we talking to? And for me, um, I I believe in the power that the maiden holds. I believe that she is underestimated completely. And, you know, when we work with her as an archetype, we're working with her cosmic energy. And there's also an element of it that is shadow work, and it is arriving at the first threshold of womanhood, and you know, this being initiated into this rite of passage when we yeah, when we reach menarche, when we have our first bleed. And yeah, I feel like the maiden is, she encompasses so much more than people or than we are made to believe. I see the maiden as in many different stages. I believe that she comes through in many different stages. She is the young flower child that dances through the meadows, gathering the flowers and the herbs, and is blissfully unaware. She's just so immersed in the present moment. And then I believe that she she grows, she transforms um, into the full power of the maiden as the maiden rises through her life. She's constantly gathering things and placing them in her basket, ready for when she's going to need them next. You know, I believe that the maiden is the lover. Like, when she gets to a certain age in later life, she starts discovering certain parts of her expression and sensuality. And I really believe that we need to honor these rites of passage, these really sacred happenings in a woman's life, because the maiden is the foundational archetype. She's the first one. So from um, you know, from conception to birth, there is already so many elementals um, felt within the womb, right? As a woman, she feels all these elementals already in the mix in her mother's womb, and then she arrives earthside through the birth portal, and then her journey just continues to unfold. And she is constantly, throughout the years as she grows, she's constantly laying these like sacred builds, these sacred foundations that will be strong enough to hold her
Mm.
in later life. Um, and there's so much around the maiden, like she's in her true discovery, like she's, you know, it's almost like free of responsibility.
Mhm.
It's before she meets motherhood, before she meets Marga, before she meets Crone, and yet those other three archetypes are still so present because they're who she will become, and this is why I like return and come full circle to archetypal healing all the time, because these archetypes require radical recognition of who they are, the ancestral energy that they hold. They are blueprints of these phases. They are blueprints of a woman, um, and I can just see these blueprints being written out in ancient scripture and these codes being downloaded. And yeah, I feel there's such a need for the reclamation,
Mhm.
um, to bridge that gap. Like,
Mhm.
so many women, who don't have an honouring in their maidenhood through no fault of their own, just get kind of like thrown into the next three life stages without their roots to hold
Yeah.
them, without the roots of the maiden.
Yeah. I love that you're saying around the maiden is the foundation and anything that we catapult from there. So if it's off, everything's going to be off. And we
Mm,
spend the most of our life then trying to rectify it and come back into full alignment with who we are. But it's like when we get that right, the foundation right, we can rise in like our fullness. And we live in a world where the most potent element of the maiden is vilified, her sexual potency. Like you said, she's the lover. It's like that time before motherhood comes when that energy switch is on in her womb and she's like ignited. And it's like we try and cut it down. And we were talking about threads that weaving all the way through the sisterhood and collection, and what happens when it's not addressed or felt or tended to, and what happens when it's like in our leaders that um, are saying the thing but aren't necessarily doing the thing. And
yeah,
because it creates distortion and it creates a sense of hierarchy. And I really want to talk to that in a minute, but I really want to just say around this sense of, yeah, the stages of womanhood and the crossing of that threshold into like the maiden, and how it can get so distorted when we try and cap or keep women safe because apparently our sexual energy is dangerous. Do you know what I mean? That sense of there's so many things around, it's dangerous to us, it's dangerous to others. Men don't know
mm-hmm.
what to do with it. There's so many things we've got to keep it safe, we've not got to keep it safe. And it gets split into so many things that when it's just the most pure, innocent thing of exploration of becoming a
Yeah,
woman, because all mothers are generated through sex. So it's like we can't escape that, but we need to initiate it into a more conscious and cohesive thing, and which is why I love the work that you do with young women, young girls, and also the work that you do with women around the reclamation of the maiden. Because I speak with you because as much as we're both leaders, we're both leading the path, and I get so much nourishment and understanding of my own internal maiden by being in your presence, and just that imprint and remembrance of the initiation I went through at 15, because I think I met you when you were 15. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
15, 14,
see,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, a few weird, and so it really activated something in me around my initiation, because I had to leave home at 15, and I was like looking at you like I didn't know what any of this was at that age, and just seeing you hold that, it was like an activation. We spoke about the fact that, yeah, I'm saying activation, but it triggered the shit out of me. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
Because it was like I had to feel so much grief around n- not being held at that age to expand into my gnosis, into my knowing, into who I was, becoming the medicine that we're carrying, because that's when it gets switched on. And, you went through, a massive initiation for that to come to pass. And I know we spoke about in the thing that we did on Instagram, but if you just briefly say to people so they get an understanding of what it took you to kind of like step into that knowing and the initiations around, yeah, around.
Yeah. Um, so from being really young, I'd always had a relationship with spirit. Um, so my grandma Doris passed away, who I'm named after. She passed away when I was 4. And around that time, I think that in itself was a real, yeah, that it was a real catalyst. And it redirected my journey. There was, I think that's when I fully came into connection with spirit. And um, I'd always I'd always seen like spirit and like from being a baby, but I think like losing my um sorry, the passing of my grandma Doris, because I didn't lose her, she's forever with me.
Yeah,
Um
exactly.
but the passing of her really opened my heart. I had never felt a pain or a grief like that before, and it was yeah, it was a lot to navigate at that time. I think being so young, and I was really blessed to have such a supportive network of family around me, and yeah, so and then throughout like later life, as I grew up, um, I was initiated into a circle of women by my mama. Um, she is a space holder as well, and I think like there was something so beautiful about, when I reached that rite of passage, that I was really welcomed into the circle of women um, that we had around us, that were in our close circle. But I did at that point feel um, a real lacking of spaces for girls. Um, and yeah, I so deeply craved a space where I could go and we could all sit, with no expectation and no judgment, and free from prying eyes within like society, and just, to have that expression, be welcomed in a space, and we can just share and um, laugh and cry and feel and, experience circling together. That was it for me, of like it's a sisterhood, it's togetherness, and there was such a disconnect there. I just didn't feel that from like peers, from girls my age.
Yeah, because you had quite a challenging time at school, to say the least, because
Yeah,
you were different. You felt spirit, and like you said, there
yeah,
wasn't that kinship.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
And it's like I just like craved so deeply in my heart to just get away from the playground pettiness, the competition between girls that starts at like primary school age, that starts at that young age, and is almost normalized by the school system, the education system as a whole. Um, and then later on, when I was about 12, yeah, I think it was like a, yeah, 11, 12. I went to the I Am Witch um, exhibition in Lancaster at the Story with my mama, and that in itself was completely transformational, and um, had such an impact on my journey that I wasn't even aware of at the time. But yeah, it truly was, and I'd had the night before, we went to the it was a closing ceremony that we attended because the exhibition had been on for a while, and we attended the closing ceremony. And the night before, I'd had some really intense visions of women being burned as witches, and yeah, so to be able to go and share that and experience the yeah the healing within that collective
Can I
was
just
something
say
else.
what that I have no idea what that exhibition, it was beyond an exhibition, let's be fair.
Yes, yeah, it was.
Let's
There were
be
no words.
fair, because that was like the catalyst. I was like, oh my God, blooming wide open
Yeah.
around my own heritage and, persecution of my historical, um, yeah, of black magic, magic that comes out of black people is so vilified. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Yeah, it blew me open on a whole level. Like you said, I didn't understand the visions I got before I got there, and when I got there,
Yeah.
I just felt like the deep ache, like, oh my God, I could cry for the whole world right now. I don't know what's going on, but I could cry for the whole world. And processing that, yeah, massive catalyst for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, it really was like the connections and the even just like the creations, the magic that came out of that,
Mm,
like the witches revival that
mm,
followed a few
yeah,
years later, and um, which in itself was an incredible like festival
yeah,
of her story. And like just again like that bringing together
mm,
of women, and women who are still in my life now, are still like that I'm still connected to now, like that I work with so closely, like my
mm,
mentor Paula Michelle being one of them, um that came from, and essentially those connections came from the woundings, right? Like the collective call out to heal our wounds, to heal the witch wound, and from that was born so much healing,
yeah,
like beautiful, safe sisterhood, safe connection. Um, yeah,
yeah. And we've experienced the opposite of that since that time as well, in lots of
yeah,
ways. But I really want to just speak about that event, the revival, because it was like my coming out party, because I've been through another initiation and then been given the download of the spiral that I took there. But
yeah,
that was part of the work, like doing that ancestral work in a big way. It was like, it was so beautiful doing that for all those women, but also doing my own personal work around going into a building that was from colonizers and feeling all the spirits in that space and having to do a clearing. But like you said, there was a sense of safety there, as
mhm,
in that would not have come up otherwise. And I had to feel so many things about being a black woman in that space and all the ancestral history of that. And I've written two beautiful pieces around that. For this new anthology that we're both in, that's coming out very soon. We'll speak about that in a bit. But just that sense of holding and that sense of expansion, and what happens at that expansion stage when we are growing into more of who we are, and we are vulnerable when we do that, because it's like we have to shed the skin to get to the next level of our evolution. And what we've both found recently in the field is that we've been doing that, but then being met with almost like attack, like where do you think you're going, get back
yeah,
down energy, like that, wanting to cut. um
yeah,
and so we've both been on a deep journey, like searching of what is actually that, what is that. It needs naming, it needs to be felt. And again, we believe that if something comes across our path, it's because we're meant to take responsibility of it and look at it and analyze it.
yeah,
That's how we work, because we work with mother, we work with the elements, we work on the bigger picture. And
mm,
so yeah, we both came to the same conclusion. We both didn't know. We both didn't speak about it until today, because I just said, it's time now, Macy.
yeah,
I've been told, Mother's said, get Macy on the call now. She needs to close out this season. And I just wrote and just said, have you got time today to do this thing? Because I feel it's going to be beautiful, because because of the work that we've been doing. And I've no idea what work you've been doing, but I just knew that it must have been on this thread. I was told to get hold of you. And And we both came up with the same conclusion because we both had an experience that really shook us, you
Yeah.
know, shook us in a way where not, yes, it felt painful at the time, but in a way that was like, fucking hell, what was that? As in, I feel like I'm being cut down here for sharing my wisdom, for sharing my voice, for sharing the deeper gnosis within. And
Yeah.
that sense of sisterhood just wasn't there, or that sense of being nurtured by leaders who, or people we'd considered leaders just wasn't there. It was almost like this sense of fear from them,
Mm.
or I was called dangerous, of all things, for
Yeah.
saying the truth that I serve as mother. And yeah, it really knocked me because coming out fresh in a new way, it takes a village, and we don't have that. So we have to create that ourselves. And unfortunately, what I found on that level was that we were almost like hitting ourselves on the glass ceiling of sisterhood and almost
Mhm.
eating ourselves because
And
there wasn't
and
that holding to the next level. So we've had to initiate and hold ourselves.
yeah, and it just furthers the suppression of women, of our
Yeah.
voices. Um, and I've had quite a few experiences throughout throughout my journey of that, and I really believe that the sister wound that we all carry, right,
Mm-hmm.
to some extent, we all carry that wounding, and even men carry the wounding of the sister wound. They
Yeah.
carry it as the perpetrators. Um, and I really found that this wounding originates from the maiden wounding. Um, I really believe that the two are interconnected and that it starts at such a young age, like I mentioned before, like on the playground, and we think it's so often dismissed as, oh, it's nothing, it's just girls being girls, or and actually it's not. This is where it starts.
Yeah.
Like, it starts with the maiden, like so much in a woman's life, and if we can heal it with the younger generation, with the maidens, then we're healing it for
Mm.
future women that will come.
And it's not just healing it, it's initiating and knowing that the model we've been given for the maiden now is wonky. It's like we know it's wonky. And it's almost like for me, it's like we need to just discard it, and people like yourself that are like just saying the thing, we need to amplify their voices, which is why I'm amplifying your voice, because you have such a potency that it's like it will ripple out into the field. And sometimes we think we have to do massive things, but I know that it's like dropping a pebble in the in
Yes.
the pond and watching the ripples go out and allowing the faith that we have in our and the trust of mother to allow that to do the thing. I think sometimes we get this sense of what it is to step into maiden, to step into fullness of our being
Yeah.
wonky because we're trying to fit it into a male model
Yeah.
around success, and this is what is outward, and this is da 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 da. And we were talking about that because I was laughing for the amount of planners, diaries, things to try and schedule my thing. It's like it's ridiculous. And I realized today when we were speaking that it's just not who I am. I am ethereal. I
Yes.
am like the wind, and I wait for mother to brush which through me and then call the women. And the women that I'm calling are the sirens, and who have a message. And we don't always know we have a message because, like I said at the beginning, we've done this very different. I feel like I've worked from the inside out, as rather than I've had to go in first to come out, whereas you've like come out and like working in, if that makes kind of sense.
Yeah. I
Because I didn't
actually,
think I had any, do you know what I mean, at that age? But obviously I
I,
was because I was living my life and breaking codes at that time. I just
and
didn't recognize it.
I really love the contrast of
Yeah,
like our our journeys and
yeah,
how like we can, and even when you spoke to before, like, um, that when you met me, there was that part of you that was like, oh, it's an activation, and then the part of you that was like, I'm actually really triggered.
yeah.
And that brings me to, yeah, to something that I really want to voice, and that
Please
is,
do.
um, yeah, that is like, I have, I've been really honored to sit in many women's circles and really immerse myself in women's work. And I've met some like beautiful souls and women who didn't have a very honoured or very celebrated maidenhood. And some women that I have spoken with who have actually experienced an awful lot of trauma within their maidenhood. And like, you know, similar to you, Coco, in the sense of like they felt that trigger, they felt that kind of yeah, that rise to the surface within their body. But then I really believe that it's like it's our choice what we do with that. Just like with any trigger, it's our choice how we respond to that. Like we're responsible. It's our ability to respond that matters. And yeah, I believe that if we choose to sit with that wounding and we choose to tend to our wounds, instead of like continuing the work of the patriarchy for them, instead of continuing to yeah, burn other women from our wounds. You know, I really believe that there is like this maiden rising. You know, all women are feeling this to some extent right now. Like however that looks, you know, they're feeling something within the collectiveness, or even on a very personal level with their own maiden. Like there is really big, like celestial, cosmic shifts happening.
Exactly. Because it's all the places where our power wasn't brought into being. And
Yeah,
this is what this time is about. This is what this evolution is about. You know,
mm,
we're growing into our fullness. And
yeah,
so if our maidens were wounded, we're feeling that. But
mm,
what's happening is it's getting projected a lot, or people are
yeah,
feeling the fear of it, or people are not knowing what to do with it. Because it's like you said, it's the missing key, it's the missing thing, because we have made the maiden into some whimsical, flimsy thing, or
yeah,
some thing that we're all striving to get back to on the outside to look young and whatever else,
yeah,
we've we've
exactly.
negated it as a potency of it's when your gnosis gets switched on, your womb switches on.
Mm,
You
yeah,
know, it's like the cauldron where divinity comes in, gets switched on, and then but we try and cut it off, you know, and
mm,
then wonder why we have so much distortion, both physically, mentally, emotionally, at that time when children move from that into the crossroad, from that into maidenhood, into womanhood, and
mm,
rebel and kick off and have emotions that they can't deal with. It's because we're not allowing it to flow through them. We're petrified that something might happen. I mean, gosh, the messages I got when I was going into a maiden, you just thought I was some fucking demon. Do you know what I mean? About covering my body and doing this and don't do this and don't do that and be safe outside. And then I thought, well, whatever it is I'm carrying, it's dangerous to have it in the world because it's someone's going to steal it, take it, do something with it,
yeah,
manipulate it, whatever. It was like a complete shutdown and like
mm,
fear of my own potency, but still doing the lessons. Like I said, I left home at 50 without realizing what I was doing because I was carrying all this and it just turned into chaos because I didn't know how to let it flow. And
mm,
so, you know, the journey to get back to this solidity is what I felt when I felt you. When I felt you, I was like, what the fuck? It was like, you know, the tree where you call pine tree crick. It was like you were like this solid like pine tree. And I'm like, oh. And I was like, wow, that is a giant. I don't understand it. I don't understand her because I don't because my, you know, the veils that I had over that I'd been told that meets someone at 15, my own sense of being 15 was that I'd disappointed everyone by taking
mm,
charge of my life. And so to come into contact with someone like you who had women around her supporting her, to come into charge in her life in a different way, the total contrast to mine, I was like, I don't know what this is. I feel deep grief. I feel like awe. I feel so many things. I don't understand what I'm feeling. And I could have quite easily just gone, nah, don't want to feel that, not interested in her. But I
yeah,
didn't. I allowed myself to sit in the cauldron of everything that was pouring through me, every single, you know, place where I'd been put down myself and not understood my own power and just embraced you as a frequency rather than listening. And what I just embraced your essence and thought, okay, God, she's come into my life for a reason, and it's humbling
Well,
me right now.
thank thank you for being one of those women that sat in the mix of it all, and you know, yeah, it's I'm really grateful for you, and I think to feel the power in both of our work, like, albeit different, but with the same, I suppose, with the same prayer for women,
Mm.
that, and especially like when it comes to the maiden, that women know that this phase isn't lost. And like, I love listening to you talking about, your maiden and
Yeah.
your younger self, because it's like, she's not lost, and that
No.
she is such a part of you now, and such a part of everything
Mhm.
that you're putting out into the world. And I really wish that women weren't made to believe, that we weren't deceived into believing that once you've been through your maidenhood, then that's it.
Mhm.
You can't
Yeah,
go
we
back.
discard her. Yeah, somehow.
Yeah.
Or she
But
evaporates somewhere. She's there.
the
She's your
doorways of
foundation.
her, yeah,
Exactly.
the doorways of her live within our cellular body. Like, we can
Mhm.
always revisit, we can always go back.
Mhm.
And yeah, I know that for a lot of women, it's not something that we always want to do, because
Mm.
it feels so fragile and
Yeah.
tender. But I know that it is something that we need to do for our ancestors, for our future
Mm.
daughters, for our future granddaughters,
Yeah.
like, and most importantly for ourselves.
Mhm.
Like, the maiden is, she completes a woman's life,
Yeah.
like, if we, and I believe if we don't have the maiden piece, if we haven't brought closure there, then we can't ever be fully present in
Mm.
another phase in our life
Yeah.
until we've done that.
Because we
Uh,
spoke about as a spectrum, it's a spectrum, right? As in, we hold both poles to be ourself. So from the beginning
yeah,
to the end. And so what it's done for me is it's brought me into being, into my center, into being, because I, on the other side of like tending to my maiden, was me stepping into an elder and learning how to be an initiate for you. Do you know what I mean? So it was like
yeah,
the full spectrum. I had to hold the whole thing, and we split the capacity of
mm,
expanding for me to hold those really tender things, like you said, we carry from birth, conception, but all that into the maiden, everything is a stepping, so it's a stepping.
yeah,
It's an expansion of energy, and energy growing, 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 growing. But then suddenly we get to maiden and we want to cut it, keep it contained, and it's like it can't be contained. It
yeah,
holds everything. It holds the whole blueprint. It holds the whole imprint of
yeah,
the next phases. So
yeah,
it's like if we don't tend to that, then we're getting what we're seeing now, that we've hit a ceiling in the world of women where it's almost like a dog chasing its tail and like eating itself. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's become um a beast in itself. That's the only word that can come.
and I think, like, um, writing the piece for Womancraft Publishing's
Mm.
second compendium, um, you know, uh, was the catalyst for creating um my newest course
Mm.
called The Maiden Alchemist.
Before you go into that, do you want to just say what the compendium is so that people know that it's
Yes,
that you're speaking
the
about?
compendium is entitled Gather, a Celebration of Women's Circles, and it is a collection of women's stories, poems that have been woven together to um, bring you a guidebook, a book of inspiration, for creating your own women's circles, and for honouring traditions and different cultures and practices across the world. I think there's authors from um, all over. It's
Yeah.
really incredible.
I think when we spoke about it before, not just today, but about the pieces that we put in there, they
Yeah.
challenged us, but because we really had to stretch into saying some things that were quite uncomfortable for us to
Mm.
process ourselves and of our lived experience of being in these in spaces and speaking to the things that don't want to most people don't want to speak about. Let's basically say the thing most people don't want to speak about, but we knew that
Mm.
it was part of an initiation, like you said, into this
And
deeper understanding.
there's something so vulnerable about pouring words onto the page and then knowing that these words that have been channeled are going to be out there in the world for people to read. Um, and I think that there's both, like, I look back, or like, I can speak for me, like, I look back on my piece and I think, oh, like, I think,
Yeah.
oh, I get that, like, heartfelt, like, wow, okay. And then I also get that that was over a year ago, and how much more I want to say. And I get
Mhm.
that like yearning of like, oh yeah, I like so much more. It's almost like it's just a taster
Mhm.
of what is going to be, of what, I really want to, yeah, to bring out there. But
Yeah.
it was really through writing that piece and writing a draft and pulling it apart and writing another draft and then piecing it back together and taking things out and adding things in. And I met so
Mhm.
many edges.
Yeah.
And I remember I had like women in my life say to me, like, this is all part of it. This is why you're doing it. Like, it's part of the journey. And, I think as well, and kind of following on from that, the maiden is, if she is seen in this work, I found she's seen as a light holder.
Mhm.
And, in her connection to spring, by all means, she is keeper of the keys with endless possibilities. But she is also encompasses the dark maiden,
Mhm.
um, which I know, Coco, you voiced about like the dark mother before.
Yeah.
And I was like, this just like came to me like the dark maiden um, is where I feel like she's the one that tends the flames, and she's the one that's there when the fire has died down, when she's left in complete darkness. She's there to do the shadow work. She's not there for it to be all, love and light,
Mhm.
because, in order to get to the light, we need to really move through our darkness. Like, our darkness should not be feared.
No.
Our darkness should be held so sacred. When our ancestors, and I'm actually sat with a candle right now that is like the flame is dying down, and like to just be sat here and think back to our ancestors when they lit candles and they died down. They huddled all together. They just sat with the darkness. There wasn't this panic of like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, I need to find, I need to relight, I need to. It was like, okay, Fire's speaking, and I feel like she speaks through the Dark Maiden as well. And there is this like this merging of two like entities, of
Yeah.
this of how like the maiden doesn't just bring the joy; she's also here
Mm.
to witness the pain. Um,
Mhm. And we can hold both
we can hold both
because,
the
yeah,
duality.
because when
Yeah,
we try and push one aside, it goes wonky.
yeah,
It's so
absolutely.
wonky.
And I always come back to like, um, Alana and Ereshkigal, the light and dark that we hold within our womb space, and how we have to reunite um, Ereshkigal with Alana. We have to weave the light and the dark in our womb together, because the dark depths is where we hold our
Mhm.
like life force energy.
Yeah.
It's where we hold our really potent wisdom, where we hold the red threads, the codes.
Because ultimately, those shadows that we're running from are the fuel for our next stage of our evolution. And
Yeah.
so, I eat that shit. I eat it because I know it's going to catapult me to a greater, more dense, as in deeper sense of myself. And
Yeah.
it's almost like it's the deeper I go in, the more I
Mm.
expand,
Yeah.
and
And that's how I see like the Dark Maiden, like, the maiden in herself is loves to dance through spring, and that is that she's in her element
Mm,
there with the water. I think about the stories of the well maidens, and how the stories of the well maidens are a beautiful um uh beautiful example of how the maiden encompasses the light and the dark. Like the dark is where we go to really
mm,
soften, when we don't want to like burn bright, because we can't like burn bright
mm,
forever. Sometimes we have to
mm,
have that rest, and especially as women,
mm.
like we have to return to
Yeah,
our center
yeah.
and soften and really like soothe our soul.
Yeah, I love how you're saying that because the opening line of my book is there is a wellspring and it's called
Oh,
The Mother.
yeah,
And when that dropped in, it was like, oh, what does that mean? And
mm,
so my investigation into that, like you said, the depth of the well, where we go in to get the nourishment of the water, the emotional depths of the realm of that realm where we are nourished through that darkness but we have to go in and down, and it feels dank and dark and all
yeah,
the things. But we know what wells are,
mm,
there is the water is life, and so yeah, we have to go in to get there, to get to that, so we can bring it then to the surface and nourish others. And each step of that is an initiation. And um, I love that you spoke about it in that way because I see, like I said, it as the mother, but seeing it now as the beginning point of the maiden, it's just like I can feel now this softening of my belly, like, oh, it's always been there. I didn't
yeah,
have to go find it was there. If I go in now and allow myself to feel that from the beginning of my journey as maiden, then oh wow, of
mm,
course I can relax and soften into that because it's me.
yeah,
It's who
yeah,
I've been. Do you know what I mean? It's that
yeah,
reclamation of, oh, it's always been this. I don't have to go outside of myself. It's the wellspring.
absolutely.
Isn't this mature thing? Well, it is, and it isn't. It's the full spectrum.
And
That
that's
we
where
dig
like,
wells for water. The water's always there, which is the real
yes,
maiden. Yeah.
and that's where like these elemental spirits, these elemental beings really
Mm.
enter into the conversation
Do you want
because
to talk about elementals? Because whenever I hear that word, I don't know why, but I always think, like I said to you, of like the fair, the others, the ones
yeah,
that
yeah.
live in the woods, in the elements, the fairies,
Well, it
the
absolutely is them too.
but when I feel the elements or elements, it's like the force of nature moving through me. It's like I have to encompass air, fire, wind,
Yeah.
water, or else it's going to annihilate me. Do you know what I mean? It's
And
that sense of a storm moving through.
I, yeah, I see like these beautiful elemental beings as we can't exist without them. More like, I specifically speak to women when I say this, like, we can't exist without the elements, but the
Mm,
elements can't
true.
exist without us either.
Yeah, true.
So
Mhm.
it's like working in sacred relationship with them, of instead of, and again, like the conditioning that we've had, the layers and layers of conditioning of, we have to outsource, right? Like we
Mm,
have to
yeah,
light a fire, we have to physically
yeah.
gather the firewood,
Mm,
or we have to go to a stream to connect with water, or we have to wait till it rains. And I remember the elementals calling to me at the start of my shamanic work, and I remember there being um, a real like song that was singing straight into my heart and soul, and something just spoke to me around they are calling us back because it is another part of ourselves. And I actually think back, like, and during our conversation, Coco, I was thinking, my work started with the maiden journey, with holding girl circles, and and I was thinking about like how much it's grown.
mm,
And yeah, I didn't have like any idea when I met with the elementals that they would say this is like the extra pieces. This is how we fully come home to ourselves.
mm,
And I suppose that brought me back to my initial intention of, within the maiden journey of wanting all girls to know it's safe to reside within their body and the deep wisdom is held there. And I think like the elements are such a part of that, like they are a piece. Because instead of outsourcing, we can go inwards on a cellular level and know that we hold the DNA, the imprint, the deep connection and resonance with these elemental beings because
Mm.
we are one. Like we
Yeah.
are elemental women. Like I look back and I think like our ancestors, they were elemental women. Like, you
Hmm.
know, and like if you think about like and just like, you know, when I think about like we're made up of like 70 to 80% of water, but then I think about like fire and how we actually like fire needs, what does fire need to like spark and stay alight. And I actually think, wow, as women, we hold that. We actually hold in our wombs a cauldron, a container, and then we have like the fuel, our dreams, our prayers, our desires, and we have the oxygen that we breathe. And these are all like really essential elements to starting a fire. And I think like, you know, if only like women knew that we held them so deeply that there was no need to like constantly um yeah outsource like overshape
Thrive
ourselves,
outwardly. Yeah.
yeah, and try and like
Mm.
you know harvest that way instead of
Yeah.
like going inwards and it being such an inward journey.
Mm.
So when
Yeah.
I speak of the elemental beings, I speak of earth, air, fire and water and spirit, the ethers, um and when we journey into each element, it's a really it's like a really sacred reuniting and rewiring of how we perceive these elements, of how we look to them and how we look and call upon ourselves.
Mm.
Um, so with fire, like and I also love that like these elements are connected to our seasons, like as we're secular beings anyway as women, but like they connect to the seasons. So we start like with um fire in the summer months, and we go down to the belly of the mother, and you know we meet just outside of her flames. And for a lot of women, that's really invoking because of the burning times of where women were burned and physically and betrayed by other women, their sisters. And I really pray that fire can be revered instead of feared.
Yeah. Because spoke about like when fire is beautiful, but when it's wild and out of control, it can burn things, but in a contained way. Like
Mm,
when they do burnings of forest, like for new life to come through, that's how I see fire in myself. And
yeah,
just this sense of just like we're saying with the patterning of the maiden, it's always in us. The elements are in us. That it's who we are. We can't escape it. It's 24 hours a day. And we think we
yeah,
need to get our head around that we're not, when we say stepping into it to embrace it, they're already, it's like a synergy. We're connecting in to amplify. We amplify them, they amplify us. And
yeah,
so, yeah, because someone asked me the other day, how do I connect to spirit? And it confused me at first because I thought, I'm always connected because I am that now. And this is this next phase of really embracing that as a 24-hour thing. And we were laughing because I said, we don't get reprieve in our sleep sometimes because we're
yeah.
like
It's
with us on duty, do you know?
constant workings.
And it's like when you think about it that way, it's like the wind doesn't say, right, I'm on now, I'm off now. It's constantly moving around the planet. It's in motion all the time. The water's always there, the earth is always there, the fire is always there and the ethers, the plasma the ethers that we swim in, the gnosis is all around us, it's in us, it's of us, and we can just plug in this
Yeah.
wellspring is the waters of life. That's how I see the ethers. It's like
Mm,
it's what we breathe in. It's our prana, it's our chi. Do you know what I mean? It's the same
yeah.
thing. We're just circulating it through us, through ourselves, and like you said, there's nowhere to go apart from within
Inward. Yeah.
within ourselves because it's all there. We're just plugging in.
And it's just that, it's just like it's a remembering. You
Mm,
know, we're not meeting this for the first time. Well, we may be meeting this for the first time in this way or in this life, but we have always known this.
Mm,
You know, whether it be passed down through lineage or whether it be um, a soul calling, we have always
mm.
known this. And that for me is really, really important. And like I also connect that back to like this sense of hierarchy in within some circles and spaces, um, where you really wouldn't expect to find that divide, that separation there, but it is. And I think like there is like in some way where we still believe we have to learn and not remember. And
Yeah, go on, sorry.
no, go on.
No, that we have to learn, but also that it's like a finite thing of this is mine, this is yours. Da, 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 da. We're up when we get to the sense of we are the elements. It's like we remember that we aren't doing this alone. There's a source that we're plugging into, and we all get the same information when we're plugged in. Because it's like
Yeah,
the vision I got was like we're breathing, we're breathing in that
yeah.
like when we did as babies, like
And these
amniotic fluid. We are in life. We are in the womb of life. So it's like, how can there be hierarchy
yeah,
around the gnosis? Do you
and
know?
again, you know, we like a circle in itself would suggest otherwise, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Because we're all equal.
yeah,
And yeah, I really crave a space where it wholeheartedly feels like that. And
yeah.
there absolutely,
There are.
and it's really important to say that there are like beautiful space holders that hold that space instead of trying to teach
Can
you
I
and
say something about
hold.
that?
Yes.
Because I got to that stage of like there was this deep longing in me, like everywhere I'm going, I'm meeting the same thing. I'm butting my head against, we're like butting our head against the ceiling. We get to a certain point, but it's like then the mother wound comes in, like, but you're not allowed to get to that point. And
Yeah.
then the wounded mother come in because we've been wounded maidens, and then they want to cut it down. And then, so I was like, what is this? And, that thing of they can't see. They can't see and they can't sense because it's what we've always been used to. It's what we've always known. It's how we've operated. And it was like, if you want that, you have to create that. If you want that, you have to elevate the field. And that was this initiation that we both kind of went through. And I spoke to you about it feeling like, it felt like my skin had come off. I was so
Yeah.
tender and vulnerable at that time. We just shifted layers and really stretched into ourselves and like snakes shedding skin and that soft underbelly, really in our softness. And then the test comes of the laugh and it stings like crazy. But again, that's an initiation in itself. And I think we're both on this cusp where this new energy of birthing, and I really want you to speak to what you're birthing now and this sense of the mother line, because we both felt this umbilical to her when we were speaking about the next stage of our evolution and what we're bringing in. So yeah, go on, do it. Say the thing.
Um, oh, yeah, so what am I birthing right now? I am really sat in the essence and I'm really present in it because it's unfolding as we speak and the container is live. And um yeah, so I'm really sat with elemental truths at the moment, which is my year-long course, a year-long container for women, and it is a medicine woman journey with the elementals, like we have spoken about. And yeah, we're about 4 months into the the present journey at the moment, and so we've just begun our work with air, um, and the air remedies and vocal activation and soul truths, um, and it is my dream and my intention to hold this container yearly for women. Yeah, and at the end of this container, we have an in person because it's held all online is Elemental Truths, but then we have a in person um, gathering, which is a huge ceremonial celebration of the devotional work that we have done. Um, And I am also brewing in my cauldron right now, um, the Maiden Alchemist, which, as I mentioned before, writing the piece in the compendium Gather was really the catalyst for that course, because I'd always known that there needed to be maiden immersions and maiden healings on a wider scale within the collective, but I just hadn't felt the magnitude of it to the extent that I did when being fully in the throes of writing and every day. And I suppose it brought me back full circle to the beginning of my journey with my maiden. Of every day, it was speaking to her, of laying an offering on the altar, of asking for her words to come through what she wanted to be seen. Um, so yeah, so that is an online container, and that is a 3 month journey that I'm looking to start at the beginning of next year, um, in maiden season, when yeah, when the snowdrops start to pop up and the daffodils bloom.
Yeah.
It feels only right that that happens in the maiden season itself. But that is for women of all ages, and right now for me there is something that is really in my heart about cross generational spaces. And you know, I actually I spoke with a woman the other day who was she was 70, and she's in her cronehood, and I was telling her about the course, and she was like, oh well, do you think that's something that I could do, you know? And she said, you know, because she's a crone, and would it fit, would it feel right? And I said, well, only you can decide if it feels right, but I would love to have your wisdom in this container, because it's for women of all ages. And I held an introduction to the Maiden Alchemist um, earlier this month, and it was beyond, like, and I feel like I keep saying this. I feel like we both keep saying this, Coco. It was beyond what we had imagined, but it is like it really is. It was just, yeah, the intensity and the the sirens that the maiden is echoing, and you know, like, yeah, just calling out, crying out at this point for honouring, for recognition, and for closure. And so it's going to be a um, really potent container. And I also know that it's not something I'm going to hold by myself. So there's going to be some other space holders, some other women that are going to support holding the space, because I know for what's going to rise, it's going to need that full circle of women within holding.
Exactly. And this is what I love that you are, it's not a thought thing. You know, you've got the download and it's like launch the thing,
Yeah,
do the thing, and we do it in the moment. We live it in the moment. There's no like forward planning, apart from like you said, the structure of we need containment, and beyond that, who bloody know, because we're living
yeah,
it in the moment, you know. And this is why I love this where we're at right now, because I'm the same. You know, I've been like trying to sit with the structure of what I'm doing, and as we figured out today, I'm just structureless. I'll just open the container and just see what
because
happens. You
because
know what I mean?
we're not meant to be structured. We're not meant to be
Exactly.
domesticated. Like, we are meant
In that
to be
way.
untamed
Yeah.
and wild and
And free and
liberated.
liberated.
Yeah,
Exactly. Liberated is the word. Liberation is the word. And I love that, because all the way through this journey, like you said, we've had choice points. I could have easily gone into fear. The amount of things that I've had to like almost lose to get here, including my own one of my children, it was like that sense. And when that happened with my daughter, and thank you everyone who sent praise and whatever else, because that was such an initiation. Oh my God. Um, it was like I saw the image of, you know, the story in the Bible about, I can't remember who it is, that had to take the son up the hill, like to sacrifice almost. Is it?
yes,
It was that sense. It was like God was like asking, would you be prepared to let her go in order to
mm-hmm.
save life? And not in a horrible way, but just as in, can you feel the attachment that you've got? Because there was an attachment there where I was still seeing her as a little girl almost, or seeing her as not a full woman, or seeing her as something that, I had to tend to, and not seeing her in her own light. And I had attachments there that, were painful to feel because I felt I'd let her down as a mother and all those things, and the story that we get told around motherhood and what that's supposed to look like. And it catapulted me into another stratosphere because it was like, you still her mother if she's not in your life. She's still out in the field. You still have an obligation to shower her with love. And at that
Mm,
moment, I didn't know how to do that because I was being asked to step into a bigger version of mother that was energetically big, that encompassed not just her but a whole field.
yeah.
And I don't usually cry out into Facebook to say, I'm going through some shit here. I need holding, I need prayer, I need to feel the wind of sisterhood under my wings. I need to feel love under my wings here as I learn to like soar at this height.
Yeah.
And then surrender to it, knowing that that's how we're connected. That's how we shift. We allow ourselves to be vulnerable. We allow ourselves to be seen in the thing that we're moving through in that
Mm.
moment. There's no
And
hiding anymore. We're
and
here
this
to be
is exactly it.
transparent,
Yeah,
and
this
and,
is
and we're
exactly
here
it.
to be what's the word? Almost like telepathic, because we can't. Because what really pissed me off about all these things that just happened around trying to be cut down is that it was belittling in a way of, you think I can't feel what you're really thinking.
Mm.
Like I'm stupid. Like I feel you. I feel what you're sending me, and it's not nice. You can be smiling in
Yeah,
my face, but it's not nice.
yeah,
And then it was like, oh, I had to come grow myself. Instead of feeling like a victim, I had to think, oh, they don't actually know that that's what she said. Do you know? They don't actually know
yeah,
because they're trapped in that bubble of what we've always done with like the old wounds, so to
yeah.
speak. And so it was like, oh, how do I navigate that? I have to rise above. I have, not in a bad way, but I have to encompass it. I have to take it in. I have to ingest it. I have to feel it. I have to feel all the full spectrum of that to be able to grow beyond
Mm.
that, to hold the field. Do you know?
And I resonate with that because and especially like the healing process, which as we know is not linear,
No.
but even more so is like we have a it's almost like sometimes it's like we're told we can heal but with conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like I'm just really feeling, and I felt it like as you're saying it, and I feel it within these containers, is the healing is not supposed to be pretty. It's not supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be polished and perfect. It is supposed to be messy and
Mm-hmm.
muddy, and and that's okay. You know, we can surrender to the messiness, to the rawness, and we we have a right to ask to be held in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we have like, you know, it's important that we're
Mm-hmm.
held in it and that we can, yeah, heal without, yeah, go on.
No, I want to say some things around because what's coming to mind is that I think where it goes wonky is that it's seen as a frailty or weakness if you're a big I am in the field, because it wasn't small people that like try to cut us down. It were people that people look up to
Mm,
and like respect, and in some respects put them on pedestals, but
mm,
they're still revered and still like hold a lot of say in the field. And so it goes wonky when we think that if we show that vulnerable underbelly, that is a weakness. It's not a weakness. We're growing. It's like, do you think the flipping plants say to it, "Oh well, your branches aren't big enough"? Do you know what I mean? It's like ridiculous.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like you're a sprout. You're growing. We tend to those. Like I was speaking to you today. Like the snowdrop is my symbol because it looks so dainty, but it pushes through frozen ground. But then there's saplings where we have to like protect them and nourish them. And this is the thing that, as much as I tended to those wounds within myself around being with you because it was triggered, you triggered that remembrance in me of how painful it was not to be initiated as a young
yeah,
woman. And then also the initiation between me and you and the crossing of the threshold is I've also learned how to be an elder by being in
mm,
your presence, because I've learned how to expand, to honor you, to see you, and like, what do you need, boo boo? Do you know what I mean? Rather than, oh God, look at her. It's like,
yeah,
oh, I have to grow because she's going to need to come to me to also get medicine as much as I'm getting medicine from her. It was that reciprocity of, Oh, we are one. We are one, as
Yeah,
in the spectrum. The
like
maiden never leaves me. The maiden, the elder is already in you, you
yes, and
know?
spiraling within and spiraling back
Yeah.
out, and just as like, I just as women can always journey back and revisit, I love to journey forward into like,
Mm,
just have like, and from my own like inner mother archetype and my inner Marga,
yeah.
and just like just to seek their wisdom and
Mhm.
really receive and know that one day I'll meet them in like full force.
Mm,
And
yeah.
yeah, I
Because I
think
want to speak to that. Because when we were speaking earlier, I can't. Oh, because we were talking about the hara and the womb
yeah,
being two separate things. Because you've just done some training. Just say what the training is again. I couldn't remember.
it's womb hara massage.
Okay. So you said something about the hara, about it being. Wait a minute, let me get this right. You said it above the womb, but I thought I heard below the womb. So I went, huh? How is that? Where? Oh, have I missed something? And
Yeah,
then you talked about it being two separate things. And I think
but
where I
being
got
connected,
lost is that I was always taught that the womb was the Hara in woman and it was called the Hara in men, that space. But
right?
today, when we felt it into it, when I felt
Mhm.
into it, it was like, oh my God, I felt like this umbilical cord to my future self, to everything, to the cosmos, to everything. And I was like, oh, I'm drawing that into this lifetime,
Yeah,
all that medicine. And when you were speaking about those archetypal things of the maggot and the crow, they're all in, it's on that timeline. They are us just forward. And we can
absolutely.
draw on that wisdom, we can bring it into now. And then I felt the umbilical cord go out and I felt all the elders behind me and I felt, mother bear and just being fed and nourished by that, our lineage. That's what lineage is.
Yeah,
It's like we can't necessarily feel um know what it is in front of us, but like you said, we move forward. We're not just spinning around. We move forward and we walk into the next iteration of self, the next. And
yes.
this point now, it's like the clock is ticking, and we're having to do accelerated learning. It's accelerated. That's why it feels so intense right now because we've been holding back from these what we're meant to be stepping into. That's how I feel anyway. And now it's like mother's just gone, there is no more time. You have to become the thing. You are already the thing. It's already in you. You need to feel it, get inside and do the
And
work.
I genuinely feel like one of my greatest teachers, um, and is still and continues to be, is my womb.
Mm,
And the 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 knowledge and wisdom that is stored there
mhm,
is absolutely remarkable. In all women as well. Like I I really feel like, it's I think if we could shed the shame around our cycles and around our womb space, um, as young women, for women, then I really believe like, and I believe that, if maiden was never the missing piece, what kind of a world would we live in? How would it
certainly.
feel for women
Mhm.
if we never had those rites of passage taken away from us and stolen? If women were always valued.
What if we reframe that though and just said, because I'm kind of over like vilifying the patriarchy. So I'm kind of over that story of they took it, they did this. It's like, what if it's just now's the time
Yeah,
that forgotten wisdom comes back online? Because when we spoke about it, that activation in me of, I mean, I've spoken about my middle heart, higher heart, lower heart, but when we were speaking, they came online because there were
mm,
portals, and I felt the cosmic mother being able to go directly in and bring that wisdom gnosis down into my womb, and then it catapulted back out through what I class as a hira, which I now know is my lower heart, my uniqueness thing, and like hara heart, obviously, was like, how did I not? And like that activation of our radiance, and it's like for me, it's just time, and we spoke about this rippling out so that um people could feel it because it's not a thought thing anymore. It's a felt thing. And we kind of got
yeah,
stuck in, oh, we've lost our wisdom and we've kind of got stuck in the grief. And that doesn't mean we don't have to feel the grief of the loss. We do. Oh my God,
yeah.
we have to feel the grief of the loss. But we
And
also have to remember that there's something else on the other side of that the potent.
Yeah, and like I hear you when you say like, you know, um I suppose there's an element of like not placing blame as such, but I also feel like it's important for our her story and the
Mm.
tapestry of our lives that
Hmm.
that her story
Yeah,
is woven into,
yeah. I think,
that we can kind of look back and say, I see that that happened
mm,
without placing that blame,
yeah.
but just as like a real acknowledgement of, yeah,
Mm.
of what unfolded.
Yeah, I
And
think I was saying it for myself, as in
yeah,
I'm
no,
over
I
myself, not stepping into my full leader because it's like I'm not there to live in that anymore. I'm meant to hold it so that others can be held, and I
mm,
was looping myself, and it's like I'm over it myself. It's like how many times and how many different ways can I tell myself that story? It was like
yeah,
it's over, man. Move on, Coco. Like trust the mother, embrace that. She's there to catch us. She's
yeah,
there to catch me, and I can be a full leader in this, and I can hold this because I think the fear, and then we did speak about, is that it feels so different to what's been the normal narrative for so long,
yeah,
and it shakes people. It causes tension, it causes like disruption in the field, it rocks the status quo, and people can look at that as if to say, "Oh, you're doing that." It's like, no, I serve God, I serve life. Life is doing that to me, and I'm just the frequency of what's coming next. And when you're a leader at the front of what's coming next, and there's no context, one, we're like blind, we're having to learn to be mystics on the go, see in the
mm,
dark, and everything else we're having to learn to let go, and we're having to grieve in the dark, we're having to feel everything at once. It's just so intense. It's like we're grieving as we're building and like feeling all the things, and it's like, wow. So yeah, I love that we've got to this point where we're ready to live in a new octave of our siren sound. And mine is I'm not going to speak into what mine is yet, because I'm still formulating. Like I said, I've still just
mm,
shed loads of skins, and I'm still learning to embody and embrace it in myself as a full structured thing. um I forgot what I was going to say then, but there was something just about that sense of, yeah, we learn on the go. We
mm,
learn it on the go, and we become the thing as we move forward. And mine is very different to what I was. And if I was listening to the old beliefs and the buying into the things of what I thought I came here to do, and not trusting that these weird tracks that I'm sent down and these people that I have to meet and speak to, like if I don't question that, it leads me to something so beautiful, that urge, that sacral impulse, that womb impulse that goes, go
mm,
there, go here, go. It's like I follow that, and I'm like, my brain's going, what the fuck is where are we going? What are we doing? What she want you to do now? What doesn't she want you to do? And one of my biggest things was around rest and
yes,
softening and just being. Can I
mm,
be and not tie my worth to my work, not tie my worth to money, not tie my worth to so many things, what it is to
yeah,
be a mother, what it is to be a mystic, what it is to be anything. Can I just be myself? Yeah, it's been very confronting because the people that she sent in my life, I'm like, really? You want me to relate with that? And it's like these big patterns that we have around what you've said around what the maiden is, what a wise woman is, what a black woman is, what a relationship is, what medicine is, what money is, what
yeah,
liberation is, what race is, what any of this is that we've constructed. Let's get real, that we've constructed as a collective. It's like we have to see the fullness of it because we have constructed this, and
yeah,
the sirens are singing us home. That's how I see it. That we are trusting the call, even though we're only shown one foot, one step
yeah,
in front of the other, and it's a sense thing. We are leaving the mind behind, which is why a lot of people are gripping and grappling on for dear life now, because their beliefs are being shattered. The world is like upside down, inside out, and the beliefs are being shattered. And like you said, choice point. We can either go into the fear around, or we can feel what's actually coming in, what's actually here already for us to embrace and soften into. It's already
yeah,
here. Everything else is just, I don't know how you describe it, but I just call it as the things that no longer serve us, the things that are falling away, that so we can be our full true self. And I know it feels chaotic right now, but there's rhyme and reason. And there may not be rhyme and reason to what I'm saying now, as in, I feel what's beyond all this. I feel it. And it's magnificent. Do you know what I mean? But we had to get there.
Yeah.
We have to go. We have to. You use the word claim the store, claim the maiden, claim the things that we've discarded
Claim the
in the
maiden.
shadow. Claim. We have to claim her, and we have to
Yeah.
claim that sadness that comes with that, and the fear of, like you said, our maidens were so contrast. My maiden lived in fear. I got catapulted out into a world where people had told me I'm going to get eaten alive. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Because it's a dangerous world. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to carry that as a narrative anymore. It's what we've been fed for eons. It's like, no, we are here to create a world where we can fucking relax. I'm sorry, where our nervous systems are jacked up. That's
Yeah, the
coming.
rewriting
It
and
all.
rewriting, and this is like I come back to like when you were speaking then of like the claiming of the maiden and how we're showing up and how we're here to be.
Mm,
And for me, what feels at the forefront at the moment is like really tending to our earth, our motherland, and really, really like deeply like walking on her, but deeply listening to her and having that intimate relationship with her where and there was something that you said then like about um the great mother holding us, and there's
mm,
something that's so special about knowing that regardless of anything else we will, and I actually wrote this in a poem, but regardless of anything else we will always have a home, we will always have somewhere to come back to, because if we have our land, our earth, which I believe needs so much love and tending, and she's really, really drawing on her daughters right now to care for her. Um, if we can, because we call on her for so much, we take so much from her. We take refuge in the winter months in her mother womb. Um, and I feel like it's really like I harvested some grandmother sage this year under the August full moon, and I distilled her leaves, and I'd wanted to work in collaboration and curate something with her for so long, and I was just waiting for her to like say now is the time. And there's something about like when we create with the earth and we're doing it together in unison, that we're not just taking and selling and just like constantly reaping, but we're
mm,
actually really present with the seeds that we're sowing and what she gifts us as medicine woman to make, whether it be just heartfelt remedies or tinctures or tonics, that we can just bring, we can do it justice, I suppose, that we can really bring the essence through and not leave it behind in a world that is driven by consumerism, that we can actually stop and say, I'm going to take what I need, or I'm going to receive. And I think like, I feel that with so much like when I birthed my deer drum, or when I got gifted these beautiful crow wings by the crow herself, that it was a gift. It wasn't a taking. Um, and yeah, that these, I think it's my prayer that these sacred items can be seen and really witnessed. And like you said, that it doesn't always come back to money, that it isn't driven by money, that it's driven by the heart, that it's
mm.
soul led.
Okay.
Um,
I
yeah,
get, okay. I get that. But I think also that people mistake when I say it's not driven by money, because it's not.
yeah,
That means that there's not money there. Because I've been
yeah, no,
told there's shitloads of money
yeah,
coming to do the
absolutely
things that
not.
need to be done. But
Yeah,
it's not
absolutely.
driven. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that
I'm with
that
them.
to bring more money into the hands of women
Yeah.
is yeah, is
Yeah.
needed, is really needed
It's needed.
in our
Honestly,
economy.
the visions I've seen of what we can do when, like you said, when there's a reciprocity of service,
Mm.
to that and money being in the right hands, it's like, oh my God, is it not, is it even, sorry, scrap that, cancel that.
Yeah.
The growth to hold that as the vision has been intense.
Yes.
And so it's like, yeah, I'm excited to see what comes and what brings. And um, I'm feeling a sense that we could talk all night.
I know. I know. I feel that too.
And I saw your candle go. I thought, oh wow, we because when we started speaking, that candle,
Yeah, you saw it go out. Yeah, the
it's
thing
so
is,
big, yeah.
I was looking and the flame was still flickering. I was like, it's gonna go out when we finish.
And that was
Oh,
like the
thank you,
signal
Father.
of, I think it's time to like bring things to a close
Yeah.
because we could keep talking for ages. But I just want to say, this whole day has been exquisite because I initially came in with like I'm laughing because I came in with a schedule of right, we'll meet for 15 minutes and then we'll do it for an hour and a half. And like I gave you the times, everything. And then they
Yeah.
all just went and you said to me, 15-minute debrief, we've not spoken. And it ended up being like a 2.5 hour debrief. And
Yeah.
then we had to go away and then come back.
Grateful for every word.
Great, but this is the thing, it's been so joyous because it's like it's taught me that go with the flow of the energy. Stop trying to schedule. The energy was that we needed to really land this in our bodies, really open to it, really speak it in the moment, go away, digest it, and then come back and speak it. And it's just it's been, it's been beautiful. Just connecting in that way and really understanding the the synergy and the flow of mother and feeling this in a bigger way of all the pieces that we spoke about and really feeling it, like you said, energetically and putting that out as a frequency into the field. So I'm really grateful, Macy, that, I contacted you a day ago and just said, today is the day.
Mm.
Today is the day. In fact, was it yesterday? I contacted and just said,
Yeah,
have you got time tomorrow?
it literally has all unfolded
Yeah,
effortlessly
yeah,
and all the
yeah,
threads have come together.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just we'll do the formal bit now. Let people know how they can get hold of you. How can they find you? And yeah, I will obviously have links in all their little notes and things and keynotes about what we've spoken about and all that juicy jazz. But yeah, let people know.
Thank you, love. Oh, yeah, I'll be honest. It's like introducing. Sometimes it's like I just have to let the words speak for themselves. Um, so you can find me at Pine Tree Circles on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm also the Well Maiden on Instagram. Um, and there are link trees in both of those bios on those accounts. And there are lots of different invitations on there. You can join if you're a sister, you looking for a collective, you can join our Collective Sisterhood Facebook group. And there's the courses on there as well, and different ways to work with me, whether it be in person or online. Um, and I also as well work under Pine Tree Circles with my mama, and we hold mother and daughter ceremonies and circles in person. And yeah, be really beautiful to grow the mother and maiden connection.
Amazing.
Mm.
Awesome.
Thank you so, so much for
You are
having
so,
me.
so welcome. Thank you for coming along. Honestly, it's been an absolutely lush day of conversing and, you know, yeah, just feeling each other and
Mm.
witnessing each other and, yeah, feeling the full spectrum of this thread that we've been weaving and it coming together so beautifully. And that recognition of we don't always know what the thread's going to create,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's
Following our bones and
oh my
trusting.
God, yeah. Just say one last thing about. Oh yeah, is there anything you'd like to say last? But I'm going to say, please speak about the bones because you said something earlier, and I was like, that's exactly it.
I said something earlier.
Yeah, you did. Can you remember? You said something about oh God, the hollow bones, about the wisdom coming through. It's like through our hollow bones or something.
It is
I
through
can't remember what it was that you
hollow
said.
bones. Well, because the crow spirit is really with me here, I will say, um, when we talk of hollowing our bones, we talk of clearing our channel essentially so that nothing gets stuck and we can continuously
That-
keep moving through and keeping it clear lines of communication to source and the divine. And if we are hollowing our bones with intention, then we are connecting to the winged creatures as well, like the crow, who also has hollow bones, so that they can fly, essentially. But the magic of our ancestral bones and hollowing our bones with intention, and then
mm,
bringing in allies and guides that can guide us to hollowing our bones, um,
mm.
feels
Yeah.
really special.
Yeah, it really gave another dimension to my book because, as in, digging for mother's bones,
Yes, yeah,
as in, it's not just like it's digging up to here, it's like that we are embodying the bones of mother
yeah.
as the hollow flute, so she can play as like a good one and let the sound, like the siren sound come out. And it was just like that. It was like the seal for me of, you've done the thing now. Your bones are hollow. Let
Yeah,
me play you. Your only job is to make sure that it's clear. The passage is always clear. You've done the deep work. You've done the thing.
because we are walking, breathing, alive portals.
Mhm.
Like, and so it is so important that we care for our bones, and I think physically as well. Um, speaking to the maidens within the wise women, the crones, that like care for your bones, the very foundation of your
Mhm.
body, of how you are built.
Mhm.
It's yeah.
You've
Mm.
just cemented something for me because I'm a frequency being. I work with frequency, and the image that just came, or the words that were in my head was, "You see, Coco, this is why when women get older, their bone density goes because
Yeah,
they're not connected to the thing. It's not just a physical building of the bones. It is
yeah,
actually, if you're not allowing this frequency to move through you, of course it's going to dwindle. Of course your bones are going to become brittle and weak and shrivel
yeah,
because you are an instrument for the divine. This is
yeah.
what women are. Hello.
And
Did we forget?
we're meant to move.
It's,
Movement is medicine,
yeah,
and it is a maiden medicine as
yeah.
well. Um,
It's my favorite way of
keep that
connecting in.
fluidity
Yeah,
in our being, to keep everything moving through.
yeah.
And when we do that, it's to feel
Mhm,
everything. And I love when, like, in my body, if like my bones aching, I'm like, what, it's physically showing me, like my body is constantly speaking with me. We're in constant
mhm,
communication. And it's like, if you've got aching bones, what is the energetic side
mhm,
around that? What is the emotional ties to that? Because we're constantly spinning threads and we're
mhm.
constantly like tying up loose ends. And yeah,
Yeah. I'm so grateful that yeah, that you're closing out this season as the guest. And I really am going to do another podcast around talking just to close it all down. When you said then around, let me see if I can find the right words that you said, something that activated something in me around feeling everything. I think as a collective of women, we've become afraid to feel and seen our sensitivity as a weakness and allowed a lot of that to be labeled as a distortion or a
mm,
disorder. And the gift of being able to feel everything is this is the fact that you get to play with the energy, you get to be with it, you get to be it, and you get to know that you can walk through the world whole, carrying it. Do you know what I mean? As a messenger of it, of whatever it is. We both said that it's very hard to put a label on it, but it has many labels, but we know what it is. We know what it is when we feel it. Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Alwen.
Ashe, ashe. I love you. All right, my darling. So thank you, everyone. I've no idea how long we've even been on, but it's been a little while. But I appreciate you tuning in. And as we said at the end here, that we both speak in frequency, we both speak in the language of energetics. And so feel, not just, listen to the words, but feel the words, allow them to penetrate you, allow them to come into you, allow your sensitivity to do the work, to feel what this frequency of the mother is when we allow ourselves to be the hollow flutes for her to come through. And very, very different. We work very differently. I've been told I'm a city girl. I have to work with the city energy, the concrete one, and you work with the more rural kind of like earth um, medicine in that way. But the synergy between us is so beautiful, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate people listening and tuning in. And I would love to, um, yeah, know how it lands. This is a new way of me doing things. It might not seem new to others because I talk a lot, but it feels new to me because I'm just laying it all out, all of it. Um, yeah, it's time. So yeah, thank you.
Mm.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for joining me on Sirens of the Mother, podcast where we wax lyrical about all things mother, from the divine to the downright dirty.